The sky turned purple that day. Not the soft purple of sunset, but an angry electric purple that made the air buzz. Sam Harris stood in the middle of a field outside Houston, squinting up at the massive ship that had appeared without warning. "Stay back," Sam told the civilians behind him. His hand rested on his sidearm, though he knew it would be useless against a craft of that size. At age 32, Lieutenant Sam Harris had seen combat in 3 different countries. His face, weathered by sun and worry, showed little emotion as the alien ship settled 100 feet above the ground. After 20 years of searching the stars for signs of life, it seemed life had found them instead. A beam of light shot down, and 3 figures appeared. They were tall, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. The middle one stepped forward. "We come from the Galactic Concord," it said in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Sculptor." 3 months later, Sam found himself on a ship bound for Phryxia, the capital world of the Concord. Earth had been in chaos since first contact. Some people celebrated, some hid in bunkers, and governments around the world struggled to form a united response. "Lieutenant Harris, please prepare for landing," said a voice that seemed to come from the walls themselves. The human delegation consisted of 5 people, 2 politicians, 2 scientists, and Sam, chosen for his combat experience and calm under pressure. As the ship docked at a station that looked like a giant silver flower, Sam took a deep breath. "Remember, we represent all of Earth now," said Dr. Peters, one of the scientists. The aliens they met on Phryxia came in all shapes and sizes. Some had 6 legs, others floated in the air. Some were as small as mice, while others towered over the tallest humans. What they all had in common was their advanced technology and their curious looks at the human visitors. "Your species is physically unimpressive," said a creature that resembled a blue octopus in a mechanical suit. "How did you survive this long?" Before Sam could answer, Ambassador Sculptor led them into a massive room. In the center was a hologram showing a map of the galaxy, with red areas spreading like a disease. "The Void Dominion," Sculptor explained. "They have been at war with the Concord for centuries. They consume worlds, strip them of resources, and leave nothing behind." Sam studied the map. "And where is Earth?" Sculptor pointed to a tiny blue dot at the edge of the map. "Here, far from the front lines. But not for long. The void advances every day." "What do you want from us?" asked one of the politicians. "The Concord needs allies," said Sculptor. "Even primitive ones." Sam noticed the slight hesitation, the hint of condescension. The aliens viewed humans as children with simple toys, not as equals. Later that night, as the humans discussed what they had learned, an alarm blared throughout the ship. "What's happening?" Dr. Peters asked, panic in her voice. The door slid open, and a 4-armed alien guard rushed in. "Void Scout ship. They found us." The ship rocked violently, throwing everyone to the floor. Sam helped the others up and followed the guard to a safer section. But another blast separated them from their guide. "This way," Sam said, taking charge. He had studied the ship's layout during the journey, a habit from his military training. They ran through twisting corridors until they reached a command center. Chaos reigned as crew members shouted in various languages. A blast tore through the wall. 3 black armored figures entered, weapons raised. Without hesitation, Sam grabbed a fallen alien's weapon and fired. His first shot missed, but his second found its mark. He rolled behind cover, fired again, and took down another intruder. The third attacker turned to Sam, but before it could fire, Sam threw himself forward in a tackle that sent them both crashing into a console. The alien was stronger, but Sam was quicker. He found a weak spot in the armor, a joint near the neck, and struck hard. When it was over, Sam stood breathing heavily among stunned alien crew members. "How?" one of them asked. "Their armor." Ambassador Sculptor looked at Sam with new eyes. "Perhaps we underestimated humanity's adaptability." As they continued their journey to Phryxia, Sam noticed the alien diplomats watching him differently. no longer with condescension, but with something new. Something like fear. 1 year had passed since first contact. Captain Lisa Ortiz stood on the bridge of the UES Defiant, Earth's first warship to join the Concorde fleet. At 38, Lisa had spent half her life in the Navy before being chosen to command this historic mission. "Status report," she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. "All systems normal, Captain," replied her first officer. The Defiant was small by Concorde standards, barely the size of their scout vessels. But it represented the best of human engineering, modified with alien technology the Concorde had reluctantly shared. Earth had joined the Galactic Concorde as a protected species, a status that made Lisa clench her jaw whenever she heard it. Too primitive for full membership, humans were allowed only observer status in Concorde meetings. Their military contribution was treated as symbolic rather than tactical. "Incoming transmission from the Turvian flagship," said the communications officer. The main screen lit up to show Commander Grillac, a towering reptilian with scales that shifted color with his mood. Currently, they were a dismissive shade of orange. "Captain Ortiz," he said, not bothering to hide his contempt. "The fleet will jump to Sector 7 in 1 hour. Try to keep up." The screen went dark before Lisa could respond. "One day, I'm going to make him eat those words," she muttered. Her tactical officer, Lieutenant Ryan Cole, approached with a datapad. Ryan was young but brilliant, with a mind that saw patterns others missed. "Captain, I've been studying Void Dominion attack formations," he said. "They always target command ships first, but they're weak against flanking maneuvers." Lisa reviewed his analysis. "Good work. Forward this to Commander Grillac." Ryan hesitated. "I already tried." He said human tactical analysis was not worth his time. The bridge fell silent. Lisa nodded slowly. "File it in our system. When the time comes, we'll be ready." The Defiant was assigned to patrol the outer edge of Sector 7, far from any expected action. Lisa wasn't surprised. The Concorde leaders didn't trust human ships in actual combat. 3 days of uneventful patrols followed. Then, without warning, alarms blared across the ship. "Multiple void vessels dropping out of hyperspace," shouted the sensor officer. "They're heading straight for this sector." Lisa leaned forward. "Battle stations. Alert the Concorde fleet." "Captain, they're too far away," said Ryan. "Communications are being jammed." "How many void ships?" 7. 2 heavy cruisers, 5 destroyers. Against the Defiant alone. The math was not in their favor. "The nearest Concorde patrol?" Lisa asked. 20 minutes at maximum speed." Lisa studied the tactical display. The void ships were forming a standard attack pattern, one that Ryan had identified in his report. "They don't know we've studied them," she said, a small smile forming. "Helm, take us behind that moon. Engineering, I need all power to weapons and shields." The Defiant slipped behind a small moon just as the Void fleet entered the system. Lisa ordered the ship powered down to minimal systems to avoid detection. "When the lead cruiser passes by, hit its engines with everything we've got. Then make a run for the asteroid field," she commanded. The bridge crew looked at her with wide eyes, but followed orders without question. Minutes later, when the massive Void cruiser drifted past their position, the Defiant came to life. Its weapons, enhanced with human targeting systems, struck with precision. The cruiser's engines exploded in a brilliant flash. "Now," Lisa shouted, "full speed to the asteroids." The Defiant shot forward as the remaining Void ships turned to pursue. Using the asteroid field as cover, Lisa executed a series of maneuvers no Concorde captain would have attempted, scraping through gaps barely wider than the ship itself. 2 Void destroyers, trying to follow, collided with asteroids. The others held back, wary of the trap. By the time Concorde reinforcements arrived, the Defiant had disabled another destroyer and forced the remaining ships to retreat. Commander Grillac's face appeared on screen, his scales now a surprised blue. How did you survive? We received your distress call and expected to find nothing but debris. Lisa allowed herself a small smile. It seems human tactics aren't so primitive after all, Commander. As reports of the Defiant's unexpected victory spread through Concord channels, the alien leadership began to reconsider the military value of their newest allies. Perhaps these humans were more dangerous than they appeared. 6 months after the Defiant's unexpected victory, Major Alan Powell stood in a room full of aliens. They were studying him. Some took notes. Others whispered to each other. A few just stared. "Please run again," said Dr. Zix, a thin alien with light blue skin and large eyes. Alan nodded and began running on the treadmill. He was 40 years old, with short gray hair and a body hardened by decades of military service. Sweat rolled down his face as he increased his speed. "Fascinating," said Dr. Zix. "The human body produces this liquid to cool itself. And look at the heart rate. So inefficient, yet so effective." Alan kept his face neutral. Being treated like a lab specimen wasn't pleasant, but it was part of his job now. 6 months ago, humans had been granted limited combat roles in the Concord military. Now he led Earth Force One, a special team of 12 soldiers from different Earth nations. "That's enough," said a new voice. Ambassador Sculptor entered the room. "Major Powell has a mission briefing." Alan stepped off the treadmill, wiping his face with a towel. He followed the ambassador down a long hallway lined with windows that showed the vastness of space outside. "The scientists are very interested in human physiology," said Sculptor, "particularly your adrenaline response and pain tolerance." "We're not that special," Alan replied. "That is where you are wrong, Major. A Turvian soldier feels pain and retreats. A Mechnar fighter calculates odds and surrenders when they are unfavorable. But humans—" The ambassador paused. "Humans get angry when hurt. You fight harder. It is unusual." They entered a room where Alan's team waited. There was Sergeant Judy Kim, weapons specialist; Corporal Dan Martinez, communications; Private Aaron Wells, the youngest at 22, an expert in alien tech; and 9 others, all chosen for their skills and adaptability. A hologram appeared, showing a space station shaped like a wheel. "Concord Diplomatic Station 12, said Sculptor. "It was captured by Void forces 3 days ago. 27 diplomats are being held hostage, including representatives from 3 species who are considering joining our alliance." Alan studied the rotating image. Security systems. Standard Concord protocols, now under Void control. The station has 6 sections, with the hostages likely held in the central hub. Defenses. Approximately 40 Void soldiers. Their commander is War Leader Krovac, known for his brutality. Alan looked at his team. They showed no fear, only focus. "When do we leave?" "Immediately. A stealth shuttle will take you close. You must board undetected through maintenance access points. Your mission is to rescue the diplomats with minimal casualties." 6 hours later, Earth Force One floated in space near Station 12. Their suits, black with Concord tech enhancements, made them nearly invisible against the darkness. "Remember," Alan said over the comm, "we stick to the plan. Quiet entry, secure the hostages, quiet exit." "Yes, sir," 11 voices responded. They moved toward the station, using small thrusters to guide themselves to an airlock on the outer ring. Aaron bypassed the security system, and they entered without raising alarms. The first part of the mission went as planned. They moved through maintenance tunnels, avoiding Void patrols. But as they approached the central hub, Dan held up a hand to stop them. "Major, I'm picking up strange readings," he whispered. "The hostages aren't in the central hub. They've been moved to separate holding cells throughout the station. This wasn't in the plan." Alan fought quickly. The original strategy wouldn't work now. "New plan," he said. "We split into 4 teams. Judy, take Team 2 to Section C. Dan. Take Team 3 to Section E. Aaron. You're with me in Section A. Team 4. Secure our exit route." "Sir," Judy said carefully, The Concorde commander specifically ordered us to stay together. Alan knew she was right, but he also knew that following rigid orders when the situation had changed would fail. Sometimes you have to adapt, he said. That's what humans do best. 3 hours later, as their shuttle raced away from the station, all 27 diplomats sat in shocked silence. Behind them, the Void soldiers were either unconscious or locked in storage rooms. Not one diplomat had been harmed. Not one human had been lost. In the Concorde Command Center, aliens watched the mission recordings with growing unease. They disobeyed direct orders, one said. Yet they succeeded beyond our expectations, replied Ambassador Skulter. Perhaps this is why we should fear them. 2 years into the war, human soldiers could be found on every front. Admiral Kate Summers stood on the bridge of the UES Intrepid, the largest human warship ever built. At 55, Kate had gray streaks in her dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. Status of the fleet, she asked her second-in-command. All ships in position, Admiral. The Turvian cruisers are complaining about our formation again. Kate smiled slightly. They always do, but they'll follow orders. The view screen showed her fleet, a mix of human ships and vessels from 12 different alien species. All followed Earth military doctrines now, a change that had come after human strategies proved effective time and again. The Void fleet will exit hyperspace in 2 minutes, reported the sensor officer. Kate nodded. All ships prepare for rapid repositioning on my mark. 2 years ago, such an order would have been met with confusion and resistance from alien commanders. Now they understood. Humans didn't fight like the Concorde had for centuries. They didn't hold position and exchange fire until one side retreated. They moved. They adapted. They surprised. The Void fleet appeared exactly where expected and found nothing. Kate's fleet had shifted position at the last second, moving to attack from behind and below. All ships, open fire, Kate ordered. The battle was brief and decisive. The Void ships, caught off guard, couldn't reposition fast enough. Half were destroyed before they could return fire. The rest retreated in disarray. Back at Concorde headquarters, Kate received news that made her blood run cold. The Void Dominion has launched a direct attack on Earth, said the Concorde Supreme Commander, a massive insectoid named Exerzak. They have identified humans as their greatest threat. Kate's face hardened. I need to return immediately. Your fleet is needed on the front lines. Exerzak replied. Concorde forces are already responding to Earth's defense. But Kate knew the rigid Concorde defensive protocols would not be enough. On Earth, in the small town of Riverdale, Ben Martinez was having a normal day at his construction job when the sky turned black. Ben was 34, with strong arms from years of hard work and no military experience. When the first Void ships appeared overhead, panic erupted. People ran screaming as alien dropships landed in the town center. Ben watched from behind a fallen wall as black-armored Void soldiers marched out. They fired at anyone who moved. We need to do something, whispered Carlos, Ben's coworker. Ben noticed something. A damaged Concorde fighter had crashed nearby. The pilot was dead, but the ship seemed mostly intact. I have an idea, Ben said. Cover me. Ben ran to the crashed fighter, dodging weapons fire. Inside, he found controls similar to the construction mechs he operated daily. Different, but similar enough. With shaking hands, he activated the systems. The fighter hummed to life. Weapons online. Ben had never fired a weapon more dangerous than a nail gun, but when he saw the Void soldiers dragging children from a school, something changed inside him. He pushed the firing controls. Energy beams sliced through Void armor like paper. He kept firing, maneuvering the damaged fighter using skills from operating construction equipment. Across Earth, similar scenes played out. Farmers used alien tech to defend their lands. Office workers turned broken weapons against their users. Ordinary people fought with extraordinary determination. When Concorde reinforcements finally arrived, they found scenes that shocked them. Void forces that had conquered entire alien worlds were in retreat, driven back by humans with minimal training and improvised weapons. In a Concord meeting chamber, alien leaders watched recordings from Earth with growing concern. "Look at this one," said a Turvian general, pointing to footage of Ben fighting. "No training, no experience. Yet he destroyed 12 Void elite soldiers." "It's not just their soldiers we should worry about," replied another alien. "Every human is a potential weapon." In her quarters, Admiral Kate Summers received the news that Earth had survived. She felt pride, but also noticed something else in the messages from Concord leadership. For the first time, they seemed afraid of their human allies. 1 year after the Battle of Earth, Colonel Jack Winters stood in a lab deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. His tall frame cast a long shadow across the gleaming floor. At 45, his face showed the scars of many battles, but his eyes remained sharp and clear. "Are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Olivia Grant, looking up from her computer. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted her glasses. "The Concord needs every edge we can give them," Jack replied. "If this works, we could end the war sooner." Around them, a mix of human and alien scientists worked at stations filled with strange equipment. This facility had been built after the Concord officially reclassified humans as a warrior species. No longer viewed as primitive allies, humans now led the fight against the Void Dominion. Olivia sighed. "The procedure has risks. We've only tested it on cell samples and simulations." Jack placed a hand on her shoulder. "I volunteered. The Neuralink combat systems are already working perfectly. This is the next step." The Neuralinks were Jack's project. By combining human brains directly with alien technology, soldiers could react faster than any species in the galaxy. Human ships now moved like extensions of their captains' bodies. Human fighters seemed to know what their enemies would do before they did it. But this new procedure was different. It would change Jack himself, enhancing his physical abilities beyond normal human limits. 1 hour, Olivia said finally. "The enhancement will last 1 hour in this first test. After that, you'll need the counteragent." Jack nodded and followed her to a chamber in the center of the lab. He lay down on a table as technicians attached sensors to his body. "Remember," Olivia said as she prepared a syringe with blue liquid, "this targets your adrenal system. You'll be stronger and faster, but also more aggressive. Try to stay in control." "I understand the risks," Jack said calmly. Olivia injected the blue liquid into his arm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Jack gasped as heat flooded his body. His vision sharpened. Sounds became clearer. Every muscle tensed with new power. "Heart rate increasing," said a technician. "Brain activity spiking." Jack sat up. The world seemed different. Better. Clearer. He felt like he could run for days without tiring. "How do you feel?" Olivia asked cautiously. Jack smiled. "Like I could take on the entire Void Dominion myself." 2 weeks later, Jack led a squad of enhanced soldiers into battle at Rigel. The Void forces had no chance. Human soldiers moved with impossible speed. They tore through enemy lines like they were made of paper. Jack himself destroyed an armored vehicle with his bare hands when his weapons ran out of ammunition. Footage of the battle spread across the galaxy. Even the Concord allies watched in horror as enhanced humans fought with a ferocity no species had ever seen before. "This is not war," said a Turvian commander. "This is something else entirely." But the results were undeniable. The Void Dominion retreated from Rigel, abandoning a planet they had held for 50 years. Back on Earth, the enhancement program expanded. More soldiers volunteered despite the risks. The enhancements were improved, lasting longer with fewer side effects. Human forces pushed the Void back on all fronts. In a secret meeting of Concord leadership, alien representatives shared their concerns. "The humans are winning the war for us," said Ambassador Skulter. "But at what cost? They are becoming something we don't understand." "Did you see the battle footage?" asked the Mechnar general. One human soldier took down 6 Void elite guards after being shot twice. Not even a Cronin berserker could do that. Perhaps, said Exerzak, the Supreme Commander, we should consider what happens after the war. Do we want such a species with these abilities spreading throughout the galaxy? As the debate continued, human forces prepared for the final push into Void territory. The war was turning, and humanity was leading the charge. But in the shadows of victory, a new fear was growing, not of the enemy, but of their most effective allies. 6 months later, General Maria Rodriguez stood on the bridge of the UES Victory, looking at the planet Xargos on the main screen. The Void Dominion homeworld was surrounded by defense platforms and hundreds of warships. This would be the final battle of the war. Maria was 50 years old with short black hair streaked with silver. Her face showed no emotion as she studied the enemy forces. She had fought the Void for 3 years, rising through the ranks as human tactics and determination proved decisive in battle after battle. All ships report ready, General, said her communications officer. Maria nodded. Begin the attack sequence. Remember the plan. The human-led fleet moved forward. It included ships from 27 Concord species, but humans commanded every battle group. After years of war, even the proudest alien commanders recognized human military skill. As the fleet approached Xargos, Void defenses opened fire. Energy beams and missiles filled space. Maria watched calmly as her ships executed complex, evasive patterns that no Void computer could predict. First wave, engage defense platforms, she ordered. Second wave, target their command ships. On the planet below, the Void Supreme Leader watched with growing fear. These humans fought like no enemy they had faced in thousands of years of conquest. Where other species retreated when losses mounted, humans attacked harder. Where others surrendered when defeat seemed certain, humans found new ways to fight. The battle raged for hours. Ships exploded into balls of fire. Debris filled the space around Xargos. But the human-led fleet pressed forward relentlessly. General, said a Turvian captain over the comm, we should pause the attack to regroup. Our losses are mounting. Negative, Maria replied. We continue as planned. She knew that hesitation would only give the Void forces time to adapt. Human strategy relied on pressure, on never letting the enemy recover. Third wave, begin planetary assault, she ordered. Drop ships filled with enhanced human soldiers headed for the surface of Targos. Among them was Colonel Jack Winters, leading the elite Shadow Team. Their mission was to capture or kill the Void Supreme Leader and end the war. As the drop ships descended, Void ground defenses fired desperately. Several ships exploded, but most reached the surface. The human soldiers emerged, weapons ready, moving with the enhanced speed and strength that had become their trademark. Jack led his team toward the central government complex, a massive black pyramid in the center of the Void capital city. They encountered heavy resistance, but nothing could stand against enhanced humans for long. The Concord allies watched from orbit as human forces tore through Void defenses. Some turned away, unable to watch the violence. Others stared in horrified fascination. This is not how wars are meant to be fought, whispered a Mechnar commander. No, agreed Ambassador Skulter. This is something new. Inside the pyramid, Jack's team fought their way to the central chamber. The Void Supreme Leader, a tall figure in ornate armor, stood waiting. You have won, human, it said in a deep voice. But at what cost? Look at what you have become. Jack hesitated, seeing his reflection in the polished black floor. His eyes glowed with the enhancement drugs. His hands were covered in blood. For a moment, doubt crossed his face. Then his comm unit crackled. Colonel Winters, status report, came Maria's voice. Target secured, Jack replied, awaiting further orders. 3 hours later, the Void Dominion surrendered unconditionally, not to the Galactic Concord, but to General Maria Rodriguez and the human forces. The war that had raged for centuries was over, ended in less than 4 years after humanity joined the fight. Across the galaxy, celebrations erupted. On Earth, humans cheered their victory. But in the Concord High Command, a solemn meeting was taking place. "The humans won this war for us," said Supreme Commander Exerzak. "But we need to address what we have witnessed. Their methods, their ferocity, their effectiveness," added another alien leader. "Yes," Exerzak agreed. "That is what concerns me most." 1 year after the victory over the Void Dominion, retired Admiral Frank Miller sat in a grand hall on the neutral planet of Nexus. Representatives from every spacefaring species had gathered for what they called the Galactic Peace Conference. Frank was 67, with white hair and a face that had seen too much war. He had fought in Earth conflicts before the aliens came, and then led fleets against the Void. Now he represented Earth at these important talks. "The next item on our agenda," announced the Concord moderator, "is the proposal regarding human military restrictions." Frank sat up straighter. He had heard rumors, but nothing official until now. A Turvian representative stood. "We have prepared a detailed report on human warfare methods during the recent conflict." The lights dimmed, and images appeared on the large screen. Humans fighting with impossible speed and strength. Dropships landing in the middle of enemy formations rather than at safe distances. Soldiers continuing to fight despite injuries that would stop any other species. "These are not isolated incidents," the Turvian continued. "This is standard human procedure. They call it shock and awe. They call it overwhelming force. We call it concerning." Frank wanted to object, to remind them that these tactics had won the war, but he remained silent, watching the faces of the alien representatives. What he saw was not anger, but fear. More speakers followed. A Mechnar scientist presented data on human neural responses to combat stress. A Vrixian diplomat described how enhanced human soldiers had torn through Void elite guards like they were made of paper. Then, to Frank's surprise, a Void representative was invited to speak. The former enemies had been granted observer status at the conference after their surrender. "We conquered 17 species before we met humans," said the Void diplomat, its voice translator making it sound flat and emotionless. "We understood war. We believed ourselves masters of it. We were wrong." The room fell silent. "Humans do not fight like other species," the Void diplomat continued. "They do not know when to stop. They do not recognize defeat. Even when victory is impossible, they keep fighting. This makes them the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Frank felt a mix of pride and unease. Was this how the galaxy saw Earth now? As monsters? "I wish to speak," he said, standing up. All eyes turned to him. "Everything you have said is true," Frank began. "Humans fight differently. We push boundaries. We refuse to accept defeat. But remember why we fought. The Void threatened not just Earth, but all free worlds. We did what was necessary." He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of various alien representatives. "Humans are new to the galactic community. We make mistakes. We go too far sometimes, but we are learning. We want peace as much as anyone." The Concord Supreme Commander stood. "No one questions the service humans have rendered to the galaxy. But the methods." Exerzak paused. "The Concord Council has reviewed all evidence and reached a decision." Frank felt his heart sink. He knew what was coming. "The Human Restriction Act is hereby enacted," Exerzak announced. "From this day forward, humans are prohibited from participating in any interstellar military conflict. Human weapons technology may not be shared with other species. Human military vessels will be limited to Earth's solar system only." Murmurs filled the room. Some representatives looked relieved. Others seemed uncertain. In exchange, Exerzak continued, "Earth will receive full membership in the Galactic Concord, with all economic and political privileges. Additionally, the Concord pledges to defend Earth from any aggression without requiring human military support." Frank wanted to protest, but he saw the wisdom in the arrangement. Earth would be safe. Humans would have access to the galaxy's resources and knowledge. All they had to give up was the right to fight. After the conference, a young human diplomat approached Frank as he stood alone on a balcony, looking at the stars. "How could you agree to this?" she asked. "They're treating us like we're dangerous animals." Frank smiled sadly. "Maybe we are, in a way. But think about what we've gained. No species will ever attack Earth now. Because they're afraid of us." "Exactly. We don't need to fight in their wars anymore," Frank said. "They've given us everything we could want, just to keep us home." He looked back at the stars. "In trying to contain us, they've made us safer than any fleet could. That's the irony. We're banned from fighting because we're too good at it." The young diplomat considered this. "So this is victory. A different kind than we expected," Frank replied. "But victory nonetheless."